Naval Air Station Corpus Christi is home to the Chief of Naval Air Training and the starting place for many new United States Navy and Marine Corps pilots. Recently, students were given an up-close and personal look at one of the latest military fighter jets. In this edition of Military Matters, Joe Gazen introduces us to the F-35 Lightning.
They are considered one of the latest in military fighter jets and the future of Marine Corps tactical aviation that will eventually replace three legacy military fighter jets, including the F/A-18 Hornet, which is the current jet flown by the Navy's Blue Angels. We're talking about the Marine Corps' F-35B Lightning II. These jets are made by Lockheed Martin and cost the government about $115 million to build. More than 2,600 of them have been ordered through the year 2036. Marine Training Squadron 501 is in charge of teaching students how to fly them.
And our job is to train the next generation of Marine fighter pilots on the F-35B.
The jets recently made a stop at the Naval Air Station in Corpus Christi to showcase the aircraft for local flight students.
So they're coming in today to kind of just show the aircraft. So we don't have a whole lot of opportunity to get these aircraft to come out of the fleet and come down and show students kind of what's out there and kind of learn about the aircraft. So
and the best way to do that is to actually bring the aircraft to the training wing and have the students walk around and see the jet.
How did it make you feel to see those aircraft zooming across the sky?
Oh man, I was excited. That's like the one thing I love most about jets. It's just the power that they have, the sound that they make, and just the maneuverability that they have.
I have a little bit of training left and I really want to select jets, so hearing that F-35s are coming, definitely wanted to come check them out, especially them being from Marine Squadron.
Once these students complete their training here at NAS Corpus Christi, they will eventually move on to other military installations for further instruction and training on the career path they would like to pursue.
I went to the air show down in Kingsville last year, and definitely not this close, but I've gotten to climb into the cockpit of an F-35 or an F-18 in a Harrier. So that was really cool, gave me even more motivation to try to go jets.
I just wanted to make some sort of impact on the battlefield and see my effects on targets. So the best way is with one of these aircraft or a helicopter. So I just wanted to check out these.
The Marine Training Squadron 501 is based out of Beaufort, South Carolina. That's where these pilots will be flying home to after their stop-off in South Texas. Joe Gazen for 3 News.